Hey everybody, if you can hear me out there in internet land, this is your good friend Chase. Welcome to another episode of the Chase Jarvis live show here on Creative Live. I could not be more happy about the guest that I got on the show today. Before I reveal his identity, I think actually there was a full screen picture of him before I started talking. I'm pretending like nobody knows. There's a great backstory to this one. Owen Smith is, first and foremost, I identify with him as a comedian, but he's also a well-known television writer, producer, actor. He's written for series like Blackish, Survivor's Remorse. I've seen him on the Arsenio Hall Show, Late Night with Stephen Colbert, Conan. Russell Simmons presents Def Comedy Jam. You get the story. This guy is a freaking legend, and I can't wait to spend a little bit of time with him today and have you all out there on the internet along for the ride. My guest today is the one and only, the inimitable Mr. Owen Smith in the house. Welcome, bud.
You made it happen. What's happening?
Happy that
wow, this is happening.
It is.
Honored to be
here.
Is. Thank you. Thank you.
And
you said you just said a wonderful word in whatever. I always have to, whenever I type that word, I always have to look it up. Inimitable.
Inimitable. There you go.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And use it too often, I think, but it's one of my favorites too, because we all are ones of a kind, and but especially you, my friend. Holy smokes! The last 90 days of our relationship has been, I think, fun and different. And I think it's worth recapping how we ended up where we are right this minute on the show together. So for
definitely
home, you may have seen, if you pay attention or subscriber at my YouTube channel, I released a little video because at one point, this is like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, my phone just started dinging left and right, and it was like, dude, you're on Joe Rogan right now with Owen Smith and Joe Rogan, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me because I'm walking down the street and I haven't recorded anything with either of these people, so I don't know how I'm on a thing. And stranger things have happened on the internet, right? It's a crazy place. So then one of my colleagues, NASA, who's running this broadcast right now, hands me her phone, and I'm watching the podcast in real life, and then she's filming me watch this thing. And then a comedian that I really respect and admire is talking to a podcast that I really respect and admire, and they, a little bit of shit talking, but mostly saying nice things about yours truly. And I'm like, oh shit. And I think I just jumped on the comments there. And then Owen jumped in the comments, and short story too long already. Here we are. We made it happen. Owen, thank you so much for being on the show, my man.
Honored, man. Honored. I would have, I wish I could have been there. I really want to meet you in person, man. I been a fan for a long time. You have inspired me more than you know. Every time I'm off a project, I always try to acquire a new skill. And you were doing this 30 days. I should have, every day you were releasing a new interview you did with it. Yeah. Yes. And I signed up for that. I was like, I'm gonna get this guy my email. And I watched every day. I bought books people had. I was like, what? And then I just went into a deep dive of you, man. And when you posted a video of how you shoot those interviews, I was blown away. Because first, it showed me that you pay attention to detail and every little thing matters. And I'm like that. So I'm like, man. And it gave me inspiration to want to shoot more and create more, because every couple of years I'll put something out. And if it doesn't go well, then I get shy and I won't do it again for years. And I was like, man. And I was like, who is this guy? He just keeps going. I love this guy. And then I saw that you had sponsorship and all these things. And I said, he's not in Hollywood. He's making this happen. So, and I never imagined that I would be on your show.
This is right, it's full circle. You put stuff out there, you say things, and you take action. And I've always believed this about the world in general, and the internet is a great sort of mirror of that sometimes. That we're making our own shit happen, right? And so again, I'm super grateful to have you on the show. Our paths are intertwined. The fact that that you've been paying attention to the show. The show's now 11 years old. And you were referencing in your conversation with Joe Rogan, and you indicated 30 Days of Genius. that you've been paying attention to that for a long time, and in a weird world, like you are down there in Hollywood with your fancy agent and managers and
Right.
all that stuff. We were catching up before we were live, and there's a lot of upside in that world, but there's also a lot of upside in the world that you're talking about and pointing to, which is just like, man, you're just doing it, and you didn't have the big fancy agent, and yet there you are in Hollywood consuming non-Hollywood content. And so there's to me that's a virtual circle of inspiration and positivity, like that we can look at one another from wherever we are. The thing that's not being said is that is a construct, right? That's a thing, and that the people in Hollywood everyone thinks that you all got figured out. You know all the answers, and you got your agent, and you're on the comedy clubs and Def Jam and Conan and all that stuff. So it's a relief, and thank you for being transparent and vulnerable and sharing that. And I'll say the flip side is, like, I am inspired as hell by the work that you put out there, the quality, the level that you're flying at, writing. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff going. So, Mutual Admiration Society. I want to
say thank you. Also, yeah, man, blown away.
I just got a text from NASA, who's producing this show, that she's gonna try and drag in that little video, just the intro, maybe 1 minute.
Oh, great!
We'll see if it works. Great. No, this is okay. Doing this, and everyone's in their own homes right now trying to figure it out. We're all 2,000 miles apart, but see if we can bring in that video, if that works at all.
I think his name is Chase Jarvis.
Dang, stole my audio. I'm gonna narrate it. Hey, Chase, check this out.
Nice,
Oh shit, I love Owen Smith. And what? He's on Joe
whatever
Rogan
happened to
show?
that thing we did with
Joe
you?
Rogan's like, yo, man, I think he's one of the best comedians in the whole world. And he's like, oh, thank you. Taking inspiration from lots of different places, but there's this guy that this show Notebooks thing I've been working on, and it's a cool thing that I was afraid to put out, and I didn't know, and Joe's like, oh man, that's the coolest thing I've seen you doing, man. Whatever happened with that? And he's like, well, I got scared. How's my narration going so far? It's okay, right? So I got scared, and I was like,
it's great.
I don't know if I should put this out or not, but then there's this one clown on the internet. His name is Chase Jarvis. And I've been watching him for a long time, and he's dumb as a box of rocks, but he is willing to put anything out there. And if someone, like, I'm watching this guy, and he's a chump, but he puts it out there, and you can see him and Joe laughing about me being a chump. But he's willing to throw it to the wall and see what sticks. And I do like him for that. He's an okay guy, but he's putting stuff out there. But he inspired me to think twice about this notebook thing and say, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot.
That's right.
I don't care what it says. I'm going to give it a shot. And so a little bit of tribute to Chase Jarvis here, but Notebooks is going to happen, and it's going to be big. And I'm going to put it on YouTube. And Joe's like, good, go put it on YouTube. All right.
That's exactly how it went down. Got to get you to do ADR down here, man. This is fantastic. Yeah, man. It was... I mean, it was something the whole idea came about when my wife was spring cleaning. Basically means throw away all my stuff, and she wanted to throw. I'm like, and she wanted to throw away I have downstairs. I have all these old comedy notebooks and tapes, and she was like, you don't need this stuff. I go, whoa, yes I do. What are you talking about? And going through the notebooks, showing I still, and I started reading some stuff. I go, oh, this is funny. And I started rediscovering things that I didn't do, or jokes that I used to tell. And I was able to talk my wife into letting me keep this stuff. And it was like, it was a big deal to me. I was like, I felt like at that moment, I knew a lot of my peers had the same experience, because I'm not a hoarder by any sense of the word, but I will keep, I've kept these notebooks with me for years. And when I started asking my friends, hey man, you got your old notebooks? They were like, yeah. And I started saying, hey, would you do an interview? Immediately, everyone has just been so like, I can't wait to do it. And I went to their homes and I recorded them. And what ended up happening is it became like this organic conversation into like their origin story. And you can visually see the comics go back to like 1995 when they wrote that joke, and they're like so vulnerable, and they can't. It's kind of like looking at where you've come from, and it's then what I got most of them to do too is to perform those jokes on stage in front of a live audience. So it gave the audience a different comedy experience. The artists, they're not burning new material, but they were like revisiting, who they were. And it's just an amazing experience for anybody who loves comedy or for any creative. And so I was really excited about it. And then when we took it around, we got some interest, but it's this thing where I wanted to talk to, like, I'm affected by a bunch of different comedians from a bunch of different, like, we all aspire to do the same thing, make people laugh, but we all use different instruments. We all use different ways of getting there. And so I didn't want to, certain networks only use a certain type of comic. And I've been influenced by so many different types of comedians. So I really wanted to be able to show all of their processes. So I knew immediately, I was like, I got to take this to YouTube. But I tried for a network play, and it just didn't really sink out. And so then when Joe brought it up again, because he did it, and I was like, you're right. And it took me back to my initial instinct, which was do it on YouTube. And then again, if I would love to know what the formula is to get sponsorship.
We'll talk about it all.
I just want to be able to, afford to do it. And because it's also like my love letter to comedy as well, because I am always fascinated how my tribe, I guess, can get people to laugh, but we all use different ways of getting there. And I was fascinated to see like how some people write and what their penmanship is, and how some people use their computer now and their methods of doing it. And it just opened up for this great conversation, because it's like if you were talking to, another photographer, questions to ask and where to take the conversation that most people wouldn't know. And you would also have their respect. So it's just it's not like I think the show is really great. And we finished the trailer during this pandemic, and we're very proud of it. My son is 3.5, and he's watched it over and over and over again. And he said the word dog shit today. So I know I'm in trouble. I know. And he said it's so sweet. Like, oh my God. He was like, dog shit. he just nailed it. He nailed it. I was like, no, Kingston, you can't. No, Daddy's gonna get in trouble. You can't say that word. He goes, why? I go, listen, say dog. Just say dog. He goes, okay, dog. And then he got this little look in his eye for a few beats go by, and he goes, shit. So he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. So,
he's got genes. He's got them genes that are like,
it's in there.
This is right now. He's hardwiring to become a comedian.
yeah. So I'm already in trouble. I know it. But
I love that.
It's been fun. It's a lot of hard work, but I'm excited. And hopefully we're planning to drop it on April 16th. Going back and forth with whether I'm going to drop all the episodes at once, which is how people are used to consuming things, or space it out. But April 16th is the date. It's going to be on Owen Smith TV.
Amazing.
And you guys can check it out. And if you go to textowen.com, we'll send you an episode early before everybody else.
That would be amazing.
That's my
I will press that stuff super hard.
Good.
And
awesome.
Maybe we can put some of these notes in the. It's playing again. Not so I'm watching your screen play the video.
That blew me away. When I got that, I was like, "What?" Like, my wife was like, "What?" Like, oh, shit!
It reminds me that we're all drawing inspiration from all kinds of sources, right? We're drawing from people who are further along in the development as an artist than others, and people who are new to the game, and for one reason or another, either they're bold AF or they don't know enough to be concerned with what they're putting out there. And the fact that we can draw inspiration from anywhere and from both ends of the spectrum, I love that so much. There's this interconnectedness. There's a humanity part of it, a professional respect and appreciation. And it's, in a weird way, for little blips, the playing field is leveled, and it makes me want to invest the next few minutes in an exploration of your influence. You've said you've been influenced by so many different comedians from all different walks of life. I would love to know a little bit more about, your come up story and where you draw inspiration from, and either individual.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, so I was born in the Bahamas, right? And I was raised in Prince George's County, Maryland. And the first time I touched the stage was in PG County. It's more affectionately known as PG County. One of the most famous people from there currently is Kevin Durant, Dave Chappelle is from there, Martin Lawrence. I mean, Dave was maybe born in Ohio, but he lived in, and we just say DC because it's easier, but PG County is where, and he says he was from Montgomery. And then you got Martin Lawrence is from PG County. And so the first time I touched the stage was there. And this is like right when comedy was kind of becoming segregated a little bit, where there were black rooms and then there were mainstream rooms. And so the first time I started was in front of a black crowd. So there were so many powerful comedians and performers that just shaped my beginnings, that I'm not too certain I'd be able to sell putting them on a platform like Notebooks. But their stories are so incredible and so valuable. And to me, I'm more inspired by what's interesting than who's hot at the current time. So and so then I moved to Chicago. I moved to the Midwest, where I started performing more in main rooms. I did Zanies, and then there was also a black room called All Jokes Aside. So there were two different types of comedians who performed in each spot, but they both had they both gave me so much just as a performer. And it was so funny sitting, and a lot of what we do on stage is talking, but most of what we do is listening. So like I'll be sitting in the back of the club waiting to go up, just watching these other acts. And I've learned so much about other cultures just from listening to comedians talk about their journey than me than me just doing all the talking. You know what I mean? So like I've learned more about like my Irish comedian friends and Italians. I've learned more about all of that stuff from just sitting in the back of on the comedy club. So in Zanies, I met people like Diana Limo, rest in peace, and I met some amazing comedians. I met Louis Black. I met all those guys in that space. And all jokes aside, I met like Corey Holcomb and Deon Cole and D. Ray Davis and a whole bunch. And so all of them shaped like how my funny is, you know.
Well, so you mentioned early, and I want to explore this just for a second, the segregation aspect. There were black rooms, and then there were not black rooms. Yeah. And
black rooms and mainstream rooms. Yeah. A lot of people didn't work both, and I worked both. And so, and what happened as a young performer is I had two acts. I had room for the black room, and then I had an act for the black room, and then I had an act for the mainstream room. And I just got tired of that. And eventually I grew into just having one act because I couldn't keep track of, you know, what it was. And that brought me closer into finding out who I am and what it is that I want to say. But yeah, when I first started, I was like, I'd be in the back rooms, just being a lot more animated. And then I'd be in the white rooms. They wouldn't always catch my cultural references. So I would try to, I should say mainstream rooms. I would try to talk more about like pop culture things. And I figured out a way to, as you do it over the years, I figured out a way to break away from that and figure out what's interesting about me and present that, so that no matter who you are, you'll find it. But that's like a part of the journey, and that's kind of like what we talk about. That's one of the things we talk about in Notebooks, because when you first start, you have to make strangers laugh. And so whatever you see, you may not realize that you are enough. You know what I mean? You may go, what do they like? You know, and so
this is
even within the.
Sorry, interrupting. I just love this thread so much, because that is the journey that I don't know a creator who hasn't been on that journey. Maybe there's a handful of people that like that are so either self-aware or self-obsessed that they can keep all the other noise out. But for many of us, myself included, and what I was just gleaning from your story is at the beginning, I mean, we're social animals, right? We're creatures. We need to fit in. We want to do our own, but we need to be a part of you mentioned tribe earlier. We need to like have a community and be accepted. And so you're like, what do they want to hear? I want to tell them what they want to hear. And we're chameleons. And then at some point, and for different folks, it comes at different times, but it's like a fucking lead weight that slams into your head and says, you got to do you. And that's, it sounds like that of all those different influences to me across a variety of times. Right? You talked about comedians that have been in the game for a long, long time. And I'm sure there's, as I mentioned earlier, some folks who are just starting out that inspire you, and also all the different sort of levels of comedy. How long do you figure that took you to find your own voice, to go from playing different scripts? Track?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I love about stand-up comedy is that you can't cheat it. You cannot cheat it. And so I remember I was a feature act. I was middling for a headlining comedian named Kevin Naughton. Right? He lives in he may still be based in Chicago. And we were performing in the UP, the Upper Peninsula, I believe it was in Michigan. And we both drove separate cars. Like I followed them up there. And I was probably doing comedy for maybe 3 years and I was killing, but I was not saying anything. Like you couldn't remember one thing about my act. It was just woo. But if you went back to work the next day, you'd be like, I saw this funny comedian. Oh, what was he talking about? You'd be like, I don't know. He was just up there. Back at that time, the whole narrative was you started out, it was a 3-person show, and it would be the MC, then the feature act, then the headliner. And the way you got to be headliner is we were told you had to give strong performances in those other slots. So I was just working on giving my strong show. So I was killing in front of Kevin. And he was doing fine after me. I think he may have struggled with like one show, right? And but I wasn't like, yeah, you struggling. Like if I was a New York comic, I'm like, yeah, you can't take this heat, Kev. But I don't think I was that way. I was a little arrogant in my 20s, but I don't believe I was that way. But he did say to me, he goes, how long have you been doing comedy? And I said like 3 or 4 years. He goes, it takes 7 to 10 years to find your voice. And then he just walked away. And I was like, I ain't got that kind of time. And that's how most young comics 7 to 10 years, I'm killing now.
But I got 7 to 10 hours. Right.
Right. He was so right. Yeah. And Kevin couldn't have been more right. He was so right. And it takes so it probably took me about 12 years to become okay and comfortable with who I am. And when I talked to my peers in notebooks, some of them discovered it earlier. And I go, oh, wow. And it's so funny, how we all get to those places, but it just takes, but I was raised, my name's Owen. I have a safe name. You know what I mean? I was raised to be safe. So for me, to say the things that make my friends laugh organically, to be able to say those in front of strangers in a no guilt sort of way delivery, it took me longer to get to that space to go, this is really what I want to say. And this is going to make all of us have a good time, as opposed to, but he couldn't have been more right. It takes 10 years to find your voice. I can listen to a comedian and tell how long they've been doing it by their subject choice. You can almost tell by how far, because then I would want to impress comics who've been doing it longer than me. I'd have a great set, and they wouldn't give it to me. They would say stuff like, this one comic would tell me, you leaving a lot of meat on the bones. What does that mean? They laughing, they ate. No, but he was talking about I could go deeper. Another comic would always tell me you can go deeper. No, that stuff used to frustrate me, man. But I finally know what they're talking about. And now I enjoy the process of doing that. And you can see the difference, when you perform now. But yeah, it takes years, man. And it's always something. It's always something to work on. It's always another thing you can get better, tighten, sharpen. It's a never ending. It's almost like a living organism. You know what I mean? Like when we release specials and put them out in the world, that's just a moment in time. If you see me do that material live, it may impact you way more than it did watching it on screen, because I believe Jay Leno said the reason why he's never taped a special is because a little of the magic leaves the room. And a lot of that's true. You know, for me in particular, if you see me live, that experience will far trump watching videos of me, just because just being live it's a live art form. But as comedians, we do learn how to be funny on camera as well. It's some things you have to learn. When I first started, that took me a long time, because I just made people laugh who were in front of me, and then I would watch it back and go, this ain't funny. And I was like, oh well, I have to do this and I have to do that. You know what I mean? It's like all these little technical things, and you have to get it to a space to where you're not thinking of it. And when I watch people who have it naturally, I'm like, wow, they got it. You know what I mean? And when I watch people who are still raw, but you see them snap into it, then fall out of it, I'm just fascinated by the whole thing. And so, yeah, so it takes, to answer your question in a long way, I would honestly say 10 years.
Man, I want a long answer.
Yeah, I would honestly say 10 years easily, because, and what's going to happen is you're going to have great nights, but then you'll bump into an older comic who may be encouraging, or it may seem like they're not being encouraging, but I would say listen to the criticisms, and when people are like, you're great, because you can always take the material a little bit further. You can always take different angles or ways in, or it's a never-ending puzzle that I love trying to figure out.
And what I love is what you just told, a beautiful story about the way that comics work and think, and it's 100% applicable to any creative journey. So there are folks at home where you might not be a comic, but whether you're a photographer, designer, an entrepreneur, like anyone who's creating anything, I believe deeply, and I wrote about this in my book, Creative Calling, what you just shared with us is mastery. When you have actually mastered something and you're 10 years into your thing, or whatever, 10,000 hours, whatever the thing is, you can see those, like when you see another comic who's like, oh, he's dipping in and out of it right there. And then or you're someone when they've achieved it or reached it, or they're struggling, like when you are a master at something, you can like teleport into their brain and know exactly what's going on. And so people have asked me on my sort of conversations about mastering, and there's a lot of things I haven't mastered. Photography is one of them. For you, it's comedy, and that's one of the things. So it's a criteria for being on the show, honestly, is like you've mastered something. And the question is like, well, how do you know when you have? And the answer that I give, I would be curious to hear your take here, is like, if you have to ask, you haven't mastered. Right. Because when you master something, there's literally, it's like the Matrix. It just goes click, and then you can see sort of the future, the past. You can see it all in 3 dimensions. I don't know if that resonates with you or not, but it sounded like you were talking.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. And you also just respect what it is you're trying to master. For me, stand-up comedy is one of the most humbling games around.
I wish there was more of a performance aspect to photography, and in a way that was why I thrived in the commercial aspect of photography more than the fine art. Because fine art is, you're like hiking through the woods looking for the perfect shot, and you're willing to spend 6 months looking for it. And commercial, it's almost like a performance, because there's 100 people on set, and you're directing an orchestra, and when you look at a performance of a photographer, you're like, yeah, I don't like, he's not very good at that. He's just a photographer. But the performance aspect of comedy is, I am in awe. I'm so inspired by it.
It's so humbling
of trying to put it out there and figuring the journey. But tell me what it's like to do that on stage, to discover all this shit in real time with your guts turned inside out.
When I wasn't talking about anything, I didn't feel it. It was almost like I was I was wasting stage time. But when I get up there and I talk about things that are happening and things that are personal to me, and it's scary on twofold, or true thoughts or feelings that I have. You're scared if they don't laugh, but not so much because you've been doing it long enough. You just go, okay, I need to work on it more. What scares me now more is when they laugh really hard, because I'm like, oh, for real? Like, because I just shared something. You know what I mean? It also lets me know I'm in the right space, but I was just like, oh man, I don't know how long I want to keep saying this, because it's really a personal admission, you know? And when I talk about how humbling comedy it is, it always there to remind you. Like, I remember one time I did Star Search, right? My style does not really lend itself towards competitive comedy. I'm more of a storyteller, a long-winded person, and you know, if I was a setup punchline act, it would lend myself more favorably to a competition style. But I did it, and when I got off, and it was live like this. It was live, and they said we hit like 25, 30 million people. I'm at the airport going to a gig literally the next day, and people are coming up to me. I flew to that gig. They were real just time. Like that, real time. I fly to that gig. 4 people showed up. Talk about humility. Yeah, and I had to give them the same show that I gave to 25 million people. You know what I mean? But as far as like humility, like, yo, because you get on a plane and you're like, yo, 25 million people, heads getting swollen. You get to that room, how many people came? 4. What? 2 people canceled. So, I mean, that's how humbling this game is on that level, and just in so many regards. And it's like, and you go through so many emotions. Like when you see your peers, you go through. A lot of my friends they'll call and they want to be angry, but then we always go, well, what is it that you're not doing, or what is it that you could do more of? Like, vent, get it out. But that's their journey, man. Like, are you putting in the work? Are you putting out tapes? You don't know what they did to get that, and you can't. You know, they may fit a specific algorithm that you don't. You know, it's just you have to be. And so when you start mixing all that other stuff with it, it can get cloudy. But what I'm fascinated about with comedians is that we don't miss anything. So if some of my friends are complainers, that's what they do. I'm not. I've never been able to hold an audience for it. But some of my friends, they could have just had the greatest thing, and then they'll find that one thing, and I kind of love that about them, because I go, hey, it's still you. Like, you got all this, but yeah. So I'm just fascinated by it's so many different types of people that come into this, and they all have a different. They have I can't say it. I keep saying going back to the instrument, but they play a different instrument. But the most interesting people are the people who are like uniquely themselves to me, you know.
Yeah.
And then what are they doing with it is like the other part, right?
Yeah.
And some people run from it, because that's the other thing about
separate journey, right? The journey. There's the journey of like figuring out who you are, and you watch someone do that, and then there's almost like a second arc of when you figure, okay, great, you figure out who. Now, what are you going to do with it? That's a whole separate journey almost.
Definitely. And some people I talk to. What's funny too about some comics is you'll watch their act when they're still trying to figure it out. You go, the act is okay. But when you talk to them off stage, you go, why aren't you talking about that?
Yeah.
So, yes. And so it's just a never ending, you know, journey and life experiences and all these things. It just keeps giving us more. And the other thing too is that everything that we think of that's funny, it may not fit in the space of stand-up. It may be a funnier film, or it may be funniest as a sketch, or it may be funny. So that's also interesting, trying to figure out where do you put your funny? Like, because some things I've done, I go, oh man, that's going to be more impactful in a visual medium if people can see it, you know. And so that's also that's like a new thing that I'm discovering now, where you go, this is funny as a bit, but man, if this was a this was a sitcom episode. Whoa, look out. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it kind of moves that way too.
Well, this makes me want to redirect the conversation to what we opened with, which we were talking about your Hollywood, grounding, and that's where all the comedy clubs and agents and managers, and made me want to share something. I don't think I've maybe ever shared this, but and it has a lot to do with like finding your own way, and which is what I feel like we've been talking about. Discovering who you are as a creator and that 10-year journey. I also about I would say in the 2005, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8, 9, 10. I, for a number of reasons, got pulled into the William Morris Endeavor, CAA, and the super high-powered agent folks, and I was making the case of, hey, the next sort of round of celebrity in the world is going to be the people that you've never heard of, because the internet's going to give you a direct access into them, and what the Hollywood machine is really good at manufacturing these people. But watch out, because there's a whole new universe. And I think that was a slightly intoxicating idea to agents and talent managers and all that stuff. And we saw the early beginnings of it. But then what my understanding of what Hollywood is like, okay, great. They just went, a lot higher up on the ladder, and they said, like, the internet is now the proving ground, and you're going to get a late night special, or you're going to get all these other things once you've figured it out there. So I think Hollywood responded accurately. But I'm going to, the last piece of my story here is when I was in that world, honestly, and I had, I bounced around a little bit, but I experienced each of those agencies, or probably turned down 10 shows, MTV, Bravo, VH1. And I looked at the foundations and the mechanics of it, and what you had to give up in order to get your own show, or to get your own, photography special, and it was a shit sandwich, honestly. It was a shit sandwich, and the people looked at me like they were giving me, like they were bending over, and I was in a deep hole, and they were handing me a rope, and like, you better grab this because this is the last rope that's coming along. And I'm like, that's the shittiest rope I've ever seen. I wouldn't put my hands on that rope.
Yeah.
Disconnect. And I actually found that system didn't deliver at all, and I was hustling way more revenue, more, bigger opportunities than any of these high-flying agents or managers were getting me. And I was like, so you want me to pay you X% for what are you doing for me? And so I ended up running away. And I think now we're at a world where, again, I think Hollywood basically just ratcheted itself up, and now we really are in a world where there's a ladder to climb, and I want to, this is my perception. So now it's sort of reoriented, and I think it's better. But to your point, and to Joe Rogan's point, which brought all of us together here today, is like doing notebooks on YouTube, putting out content on a regular basis, whether this show is content or whatever, like just doing shit instead of not doing shit and waiting for shit to happen. Am I alone in this thought? Do you share it? And what would you say about that little rant that I just...
Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. Well, I'll start with the last thing and work backwards. As far as doing shit, I could not agree with you more. And I was just telling my wife that had I not done Joe Rogan's interview, I would not be here right now, right? And I was just being honest about what influenced me and why I was so bummed about it not doing what I knew it could do. Mm-hmm. And when I literally got on my phone, because I get on Instagram, but I was like, what? I'm connected. What? When I saw that message, I was like, and it's like these constant reminders, like, hey man, keep doing shit, like it's like I'm about to do a podcast. I'm gonna put that out and see what happens, and just keep moving forward. So that's very important. And I think I think it's almost about what's your intention behind doing the shit, right? So because the reason why I haven't been like flooding Instagram with sketches and things of that nature is I didn't really have a purpose for doing it. And I didn't, because my goal is I want to have an audience so I can come to Seattle and hit y'all up. Hey, I'm performing here and you guys come. So this is a shameless plug, but go to textowen.com and I'll send you some comedy of mine and you can judge for yourself, see if you want to mess with me. But then that's really all I want to do. So I do everything. I'm doing notebooks and all of these things for the sole reason so that I can go out a couple of times a year and perform in front of an audience that I can sell hard tickets and fill a room, and have that expand to go from a club to theaters, theaters to arenas. And I'm good. I don't need stadiums. I want to be able to tell stories and just be funny and speak to a crowd. And so that's my purpose. But because I would think of sketches and things, and I was like, it takes a lot of time. Like, why am I doing this? Like, are people like connecting this with the stand-up? Is it two separate things? I struggled with that for a minute. But then once I started going, okay, my purpose is I want to do stand-up, because Joe Rogan would always be in my ear like, you're so funny. You should be making this. You should be going out. And he kept doing it, kind of like, because I was starting to let that dream go away because I wasn't getting the specials on the platforms that people were watching. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that. And so then I went on Joe's show. I got the textowen.com. I set it up, went on there, and I just tried it. And Joe said, it's going to break your phone. And it did, man. I got so many contacts. It's ridiculous. But then I ended up being able to speak to the head of the company, Ryan Leslie, who created Superphone that I'm using, and he gave me some tidbits on how he uses it. It's just been amazing, all from me deciding to do something, right, instead of not doing something. And I just texted those guys because I wanted to set up something for this, and they helped me do that. I may have done it wrong, so be patient. I'm still figuring it out, but. And it's, hey, that's awesome. Yes. Hey, yes. That's
and then
perfect.
My phone started dinging.
That's perfect. So I'm gonna let you know when I'm up there and we can fill a room up there and have a good time, man. That's really all I want to do.
We'll party. We'll get together with all this.
Love it.
Over. We're gonna get together.
Yes. I cannot wait. I cannot wait, man. And then as far as the Hollywood, it's twofold, right? I feel like when you get with the big agency or an agent or what have you, it helps your confidence. I'm gonna speak to it from the creative standpoint.
Yep.
You all of a sudden it's like relationships, right? So you start getting a pipeline and having meetings with other people in positions to greenlight what have you, right? And I used to work the college market a lot. And in the college market, there's a new person in charge every 2 to 4 years. That's kind of like how it is here. But all you need is like 2 or 3 allies who really are a fan of your whatever it is you do and are pushing for you. And you never know where they're going to end up. So in getting with those people, you get to meet all these folks and people, they start watching you and you forget about things of that nature. So when I sold my first series to ABC, the people in the room who were the buyers were people that I had done work with years before. So it was a warm room. I go, oh, y'all over here now? So it was one of those things. So they bought my show in the room, which was a tremendous thing for how this town works, right? It was a big deal in that space. We write the show. It was a tough experience, but it was a experience I always wanted to see what it was like. For me, I'm a person like I want to know what is it, and is there a way I can make it more efficient? Like what are all these? Why do these people have these jobs? What do they do? What do they add? I'm curious about just all of that before I just write it off. So I had that experience, and it was hard, but I got to meet some great people. They partnered me with a guy named Saladin Patterson, who is incredible, and I look forward to doing work with him in the future. So it's it's a weird, shitty sandwich, right?
Yeah.
But
I think
there are
so,
parts of it that you keep because there's other people eating that shit with you. So those people, like, they kind of go, you go, all right, well, we're gonna do something together. And you start to carve out your world where, you know, you guys kind of have the same value system, work ethic. But yeah, man, it's tough. And the same goes with representation and all of that. And it's tricky. It's really tricky. But my mindset has been like, I'm a comedian first. So all this other stuff is a bonus. Like, if I get hired to write on a show, great. If I don't, okay. Like, I'm literally not, that's not my life's, you know, that doesn't define me, but I'm honored to be there. And I can't believe, because I used to watch so much TV, so I can't believe I get an opportunity to create. It's like the weirdest thing. Like, my wife told my son the other day, don't watch too much TV. I go, hey, it worked out for me. Like, watch TV, man. He'll pay you back. Me and TV, we all right, you know? So, you know, but I do have friends who all they wanted to do is be a writer. So when I'm with them, their passion for it rubs off on me, and I get it. But again, at my core, I'm a stand-up. So if I got fired from a show and I'd ask back, like, hey, all right, I'll talk about it on stage. It's funny. Like, it's not, I don't feel like it's over. But yeah, it's far as like your age and stuff, it's tricky, man. It's so tricky. And at the end of the day, you just start doing the math and you go, do I need you?
Yeah.
Do I need you?
And I want to be fair, like, I think it's really improved a lot in the last I'll call it 5 years.
Yeah.
Mostly referencing to like 7 or 8 years ago when they still thought they were the shit and they were like way behind what was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to get you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting a page here. 1 second. Like, they felt like a different anachronistic, like they were living on a different planet and they didn't know what was going. But now I think that they've corrected, and I do think that those are services that are valuable. But to me, the most, like, what I want to put a bow around and I want to hug onto is that you just described who are you at your core and what makes you sing, like, and not just literally sing, but like, you know, like, man, I'm content and happy. I want to be able to provide for myself and my family. But making comedy is, and whether 4 people show up or 25 million, or, you know, if I can do this every night or I can only do it 1 night a week, or the closest thing I can get to being on a stage is, you know, doing it on video first, then I'm willing to do all those things, and anything else is extra. Writing, great, all this stuff. And to me, that is just like, that is around who you know you are. And when it's also like, it references what we were talking about earlier with that 10,000 hours, and you can tell someone who's settled into like, I'm good. Whatever works out, it doesn't work out on this show or these other things, like, I know who I am. And you can have preferences, right? You can hope the shit works out, but if it doesn't, your identity is not crushed into spaghetti.
No.
I want to take just a second, because I have been doing a very bad job at letting you and the internet know that we're watching. And there are people from New Zealand, from Toronto, from Canada, from Tampa, Florida, from
Ybor City.
Ohio. I'm just scanning here. Italy. I hope you guys.
Oh, please, be safe. Yeah.
Minnesota. Again, I'm doing a very Boston, Norway, Oslo. I'm doing a bad scanning. But just every once in a while, I forget that there are people from all over the world paying attention.
Isn't that amazing?
Thank you. There a couple of comments in particular stand out to me. One is just this, an understanding, and I lost it here because there's so damn many, but I'll find it in a second, or Nasa, maybe you can surface it to me, just that all of our journeys are individual, but the same.
Yeah.
You know, what you just described around comedy is virtually exactly my journey as a photographer. And I hope that is a uniting thing about that creative spirit in all of us. Torben says, this is a great talk. I'm learning from all different career paths. We're all different and very similar struggles to, quote, make it. It's a similar journey for every creative, in my opinion. So what you're saying is sticking. Hey, Nasa, you can shoot up a couple more questions to me. I'll pay attention and they just flash on the screen too fast. So I'm gonna hand the mic back to you for a second, Owen, and I would like you to tell me a story about your biggest bomb on stage, because I'm terrified of the, like, we all, you know, failing or even temporary failing is scary and painful, but I look at stand-up comics and I'm like, oh shit, you're in front of all these people and you're trying to figure it out and it's not working. Like, can you describe that for me? Is that too painful?
Yo, I bombed so many times. I can tell you, it's like, pick one. I should do. I'll tell you two, right? One that I had in a urban room, and one that I had in a mainstream room. Okay, so I'll do the urban room first. There was a room in the suburb of Chicago, and here's the thing, I blocked this stuff out, and I think that's like how you keep going. So I don't remember. Some people remember the specific.
I don't want to be doing shit. If this is too painful, you can.
No, it's not like going on the morning show. It's not. I'm not. I'm gonna be fine. But no, I'm saying as far as like remembering details and like the I want to say the name of this place was called KJ Riddles, but I'm not 100% sure. And on Sunday night, I think D-Ray used to host it. It was like a black show, but it was like younger, maybe like 18, like just like everybody, like the music is just really hype. At the time I was probably like 28, 27, 28, maybe 29. And it was younger and it was blue collar, right? And when I stepped on stage back then, I just smelled like college. I think I wore slacks. I would tuck my shirt in. So just off my look in general, I'm getting booed. Like, they don't want to hear what I have to say. And I went on stage and I think I was doing my act, and I could feel, and when you're not getting energy back, it can mess up your flow. Back then too, I was very dependent on the audience accepting me, because I could kind of dive into that acceptance and find my way through. And I remember it was just one person, boo, another boo. Then they all just collectively just started booing me. And I got so mad that I didn't leave. I just stayed on stage. I stayed on stage. I took the boo. And I think the host was coming back and said, nah, man, let them boo. And I took it back to PG County. I was just like, who's booing? I started looking at who was booing, and I broke whatever it was I thought I was doing. And I went at a few people like I was back on the corner. And then they were like, oh shit, this dude. And I ended up getting them back, but it was such an unsatisfactory get back. Like, I didn't know if they it was just a weird thing. And I know the comics that were there that night, when I got off stage, they were looking at me like, I've never seen no shit like that before. Because I took the boo, didn't leave, and then just got them back. And then I just went home but then I was just so like angry and confused. I was like, what can I do with that? I can't do that act. I can't do that every night. You know what I mean? Like, I was just so I was so just frustrated. And then, but I had a goal, like I wanted to go back and win that room. And, I got another bad boo story too. When I first started, I went to Notre Dame, right? And I went to Notre Dame when Jerome Bettis was there. Oh, wow. And I did stand-up comedy. I was doing stand-up comedy on campus, which was one thing. You're doing material about dorms and all this. It's just a very insular space. Everybody, so funny. I got asked to do comedy at a nightclub called Kevin's on the Hill. And I remember everybody came from Notre Dame. Like, Jerome Bettis came, all these athletes came, and it was a dance club. And in the middle of dancing, the DJ took the mic, y'all feel like some comedy? And I was like, what?
You're like, no.
Give it up for from Notre Dame, Owen Smith. And these are what they call them townies. They did not, on the social space, they didn't really care about anybody from Notre Dame. But I see Jerome Bettis sitting right in the front and all these people, and I'm standing on the dance floor with the flickering red, blue, and green. Like, it's the worst way to light somebody ever, especially in my complexion. It's just like, it's looking like, and then everybody, like, they were dancing, making moves on the girls they were dancing with. They didn't want to stop to hear any jokes. And then back then I was mad clean too. I was like, man, and I did my Notre Dame material. You ever been in the dorm? And this one dude said, man, fuck Notre Dame. I was like, hey, yo, who said that? Hey. And I didn't know. I was so new. I didn't really know how to come at a heckler. So I tried to extend the olive leaf. I said, come on, man. Let the brother, come on, man. The brother's trying to do something now. And Jerome Bettis, I remember him laughing so hard at me eating it. And then I could not get another word out. They're like, man, get off stage. We trying that. All right, y'all, thank you. Good night. And everybody was like, man, we came up here for that. So that was my work. And that scared me away from the stage for like 9 months, but it kept calling me, and I came back. But I did not do stand-up for about 9 months after that. Then the boo there, and then my mainstream boo was when I first came out to Hollywood. I never got booed in the mainstream room. They're too polite for that. But I tanked in front of industry. Wednesday, they used to have industry night at the Improv on Wednesdays. And I bought this dumb green shirt. I remember it was like this silk green shirt, but I thought it looked good. I don't know why. And I went on stage, and there was no audience really. It was like 4 bitter comics in the front, a big moat, and then industry all in the back, like all just sitting on the high tops, just like sitting. And I go on stage, and man, you could see the sweat, bing, bing, bing. Like when you start bombing, like my armpits were getting wet. I was sweating out the armpits of the dumb green shirt. I just looked so stupid. And I'm just, and I started pushing. I started just trying to have like a mental record of like when these bits killed. And I tried to emulate that performance really fast. And it just made it all worse. And I was just a blathering thing of sweat. And when I got off stage, Billy Gardell was next. He's on Mike and Molly, and now he's on, what's the name of the show? I can't think of it, on CBS. He has another sitcom on CBS. With Gina Yashere. I can't think of it. But he was standing and he goes, welcome to Hollywood. Because I used to work with Billy on the road. He goes, welcome to Hollywood. And he went up and he killed. Ooh. And in that setup. And that's when I was like, oh, because when I first moved here, for the first 6 months, I didn't feel funny. I was not connecting with the audience. I had to do a gig out of town to get like major laughs. Oh, okay. For me personally, I was pushing too much because I'm 6'5", so I'm already a presence.
No shit.
And I was just, I know I got a 5'8" torso. I got a short torso, but I'm 6'5", and I'm up there like, just trying to, I don't know why, and it just wasn't working. And once I made some adjustments, I started being able to kill in like any kind of environment. And I remember one time we were doing Miyagi's. It was me, Leslie Jones, who's now a big star now. Leslie Jones, and Leslie was doing the pushing thing. So she went in front of me and she wasn't connecting. She ended up saying like, man, fuck y'all ain't shit. And she got off stage mad. And I went on last. I closed it out, and I learned from watching Billy how to. And Miyagi's was not set up for comedy. It was basically like a sushi dance kind of spot. And it was like people here, then a moat, then like a dance floor, and people. It was like the weirdest
restaurant, a fucking castle.
Yeah, it was weird. And so, but I was able to destroy that room based on what I watched Billy do when I saw that big moat experience. And so Leslie came up to me like, yo, I want to learn how to do that, son. You killed that bitch. So that's when I knew she was going to be famous, because she had humility. She was like, man, they ain't like me, but yo, how'd you do that? And so she became my friend like immediately, like right there, right off that spot. But yeah, man, I should write a book on how many times I've eaten it, especially when you try to like, when you discover who you are and you want to like go a little deeper. Sometimes the crowd might be like, hey, what is this?
There's so much wisdom in everything you're saying. So much wisdom. And that, I think that's why I asked the question, because it's so raw and in your face when you bomb as a comic, right?
Oh, God, yeah.
Trying to be funny. And if it's not landing, it's just like, shit, I just got to hang up. And
to clear your sinuses.
Get the airline person to change a ticket, and the person's like, no, it's going to be $200. You're like, shit, it's just easier to hang up and call again and try and get someone nice.
Yeah, but bombing is good for you too, man.
So
especially it helps reset. You're like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not. That's what I mean by humbling. You're like, oh, maybe I'm not as yeah. We all go through it, especially when you try to go deeper, get all the meat on the bone, all of that stuff. You know, you have to figure out, especially in this climate now too, where there are a lot of people. Like I had one of the most awesome compliments, and you try not to pick them up, but one time I got off the stage at the Comedy Store. I was going to my car, and it was a woman, and she goes, "I'm a feminist, and you were so fucking funny. I loved you." And I was like, okay, like, but you could tell that she was. It was kind of like I feel like she may have like complained about the club before too. So I was very happy that what I was saying didn't like alert her. Uh-oh, we gotta cancel this. You know what I mean? But I wasn't even trying to cater to that. I was just talking about my thing, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Thank you. But I was like, who didn't you like? And
oh man, and there's something that like you can't road testing something is pure gold.
Yeah.
Because you're getting feedback as a creator. You put stuff out there and having sometimes you put stuff out there and it's crickets and tumbleweeds. You're like, okay, noted. I didn't do enough to prepare or build my audience, or there's all kinds of things that you learn from that. Or if you do put something out there and you get a range of feedback, it's like 180 degrees, and be like, I love it, I hate it. And when you talk to these people face to face or eyeball to eyeball, I don't know if this is your experience, but if I give a talk and I come off stage at South by Southwest or something, there's 100 people want to talk, and you're getting like feedback and different pieces, and you're when you're like this to somebody, you're like, you can watch their pupils like dilate. This is feedback, right? And then I'll go back to maybe a meeting at Creative Live, like, oh, I think we should do that. And I'm like, nuh-uh. Because I've talked to 10,000 people face to face, and I know what they want. And someone else is sitting back in a chair somewhere in a conference room, or not putting it out there, and they're thinking about things or doing that from the couch. You can't actually get that kind of feedback from the couch. It's about being, in your case, in the room, or getting feedback eyeball to eyeball. There's nothing like it, and you don't get that from sitting back. You have to be forward, right?
Oh, so true. That was one of the things that I felt gave me an advantage when I did start writing in rooms, because a lot of people, as a comedian, you don't realize how much we travel. Like, I performed in every state except Montana, right? Like, more than once. So I performed on farms. I've performed in like wherever, every place I've done. And so when I would be in rooms and I would hear someone go, they won't get this in the Midwest, I'm like, what? Yes, they would. And they would be almost offended that that this is what you want to deliver. They get it. Like, I just came from there. Like, and
no, I was just there.
Yeah, the same act I did here in front of you guys here, they got it more. Like, they were just so happy that. And so it was like this weird, like, where do these things come from? Where people go, they wouldn't get it here. I'm like, oh, no, they would. Just keep it. And so, I had this like, I don't know, this validation, this interior, like this clock, like, no, that'll fly. You should actually go more.
I'm hearing this also so present in everything you say, is it's like there's this intuition of this works for me, that doesn't work for me. I don't know quite yet who I am. I got to put in more time. And as soon as you know, there's this intuition that is so present in everything you're saying to us today. Is this something you overtly acknowledge, or is this something that's working in the background? Like, how did you learn to trust yourself? Because clearly that is a key asset for you.
That's a good question. I think how I learned to trust myself is by listening to other people, like letting other opinions trump what I initially felt, and then man, I should have just listened to my gut. You do
things and it turns out poorly, and you're like, shit. It's like,
I should have listened to my gut. Yeah.
Yeah, when you do something that someone else says is the right thing, it's against what you believe. You just do that a few times, and you're like, I'm listening to me.
Yep. Yeah. And you know what else it came from too, as far as comedy, right? Like, to me, how I know something is funny is it's a very personal conversation with myself, right? Like, if it organically makes me laugh, then now my next task is to figure out how to convey the same emotional feeling to strangers, like to people who don't already know me and love me and kind of know my, how I speak and, all that stuff. Like to people who have never met me before, how do I convey that to them, right? So that's kind of like the task. But I know it's a funny thing. So when I was a kid, I used to try to like make my mom laugh. My mom she never gave up anything. She just be like,
cold mom.
Yeah, oh, tough. Or she would go, I don't think that's funny. I don't think that's, and it got to the point where if my mom was like that, like I knew it was funny. You know what I mean? But at first I'd be like, well, maybe. But then I would go, stop trying your jokes out on your mom. But I also knew if she didn't like it, I was probably in the right space because as a parent, she was looking at it through a different lens, And but that kind of helped shape me, like listening to my instinct, like, and then just being in so many situations where you go, yeah, I should have listened to my instinct. And then you just immediately just go, man, let me just listen to that, And and then you want to surround yourself around people who love you, who can tell you, hey, that might not be right. But then
so true.
That conversation can create a different creative thing, and which I prefer. Yeah.
People
I've been on
truth are gold, man.
Yeah.
Gold.
Yeah. You know who gave me that lesson too? Who let me know that was a great place to be? Ice Cube, man.
Whoa.
Ice Cube. Yep.
Ice Cube's giving lessons. You're paying attention.
Yo, let me tell you. Yes. So, I worked on his show. I wrote on his show. Are We There Yet? That was my first Writers Guild gig, right? Where I'm a part of the union, and Cube was in the show, so I'll be writing stuff for Cube, and it was I wouldn't say it was intimidating. I just was so in awe of him. But Cube is not. His energy is like he laughs really hard at funny stuff, but he does not like waste words. Like he won't do. He's not a small talk kind of guy. Like, hey, the weather's kind of crazy. He would just be like, yup. You know what I mean? He wouldn't small talk with you. He'd be like, yeah, it's crazy. So he was performing in New York, and he got me tickets to go see. And I love. So he was doing his material in New York, and the crowd wasn't really in New York. They started hip hop. So West Coast cats performing, I was kind of getting that energy, and I was like, man, like I'm having a good time. People are having a good time, but at that moment I go, I much rather would have seen this show in Los Angeles where people would have been crying and like, oh, okay, And so we go back on set, and I see him after the concert, and I go, man, thank you, man. And I said, I really enjoyed myself. And he said, for real, because that was our worst show. And because he knew what I knew, like we briefly talked about just how, New York, they're very protective over being the birthplace of hip hop. So even though Cube was doing the hits, they could only give it up so much, and you just felt it that night. But the fact that he acknowledged it spoke volumes to me. Like I was like, yeah, I know it was weird. So we had a nice conversation just about that. But that's how I know. That's why I feel like he's so successful, and when he puts out his content, because he's like he's very in tune to what the audience wants, and kind of can block out the noise of the executives who are saying, well, it should be this and it tests better, but this way. He's like, because he can sit back and look at it as an audience member and go, if I'm watching this, I want to see this. So this may not be on your notes or in your mandate or what have you, but this thing needs to be in here, and that's why he connects, and which brings it full circle as to like you doing your own product. Like you don't have to listen to all that stuff, which is so empowering, man. And it's almost like the most valuable people don't know their value. You know what I mean? It's like it's one of those things where when I sit there and I talk to Joe about when he's like, you don't need it, and it's like, it's so inspiring to see cats just put it on their back and go, yeah, man, this is what I'm doing. I'm speaking to my crowd, and it grows. And I hope to have that same type of impact.
And I got to tell you, it's not an accident when Joe Rogan calls you one of the best comedians alive. Like, he doesn't say shit. He's like Ice Cube. He's cold.
I know.
He doesn't need to say stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
So, like
it came out of nowhere. It was a great compliment, man. I have two friendships that I never imagined having. But I'm blown away and giddy. Like every time I text him, I'm like, you know, yeah.
I'm gonna try and do that with you. I'm gonna try.
Yes. Oh, please. Yes. And we have great conversations but him and Neil Brennan. I remember when my friend Kyle Grooms, great comedian, was he would text me from the set of the Chappelle Show because I lived in LA at the time and he was living in New York. He was like, I'm watching Dave and them shoot this sketch. So crazy. And every time I would talk to Kyle, he'd be like, Neil said this and Neil said that. And I'd be like, I want to be friends with Neil. I said, Neil sounds cool. And so then one day I'm just sitting in the back of the Comedy Store and Neil walks in. I go, oh, that's Neil. No, that's not even how it happened. I'm sitting there. And this guy he's sitting next to me. And I'm like, just look. And he just starts talking to me. I go, oh, that's Neil. What's up? And we just organically just started talking. And then maybe a week or so later, he goes, hey, man, take my number. What number on your phone? I was like, hey, that's Neil. So I was like, hey, I'm friends with Neil. And it's like the funnest friendship. So, and then Joe, I would hear this. I'd be on stage and I'd hear this cackle. He has like an undeniable laugh. I'm like, is that Joe? And I would just do my act. And then, but he would always leave. I would never really talk to him. And then one day he was just like, dude, you're so fucking funny. I was like, I thought that was you. He would watch me because I would go up after him. And it was like this validation because like I said, I'm in this space now. I'm talking about stuff that's true to me and, you know, and I'm really excited to talk about it and excited to find like where I can take it. And when you do that, it attracts things of that nature as opposed to when I first got out here and I wanted to be liked and I wanted everybody to, you know, whatever, but I didn't know what I was talking about. But now, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm genuinely like I talk about being married. I want couples to stay together, and I want to talk about the stuff that we not supposed to talk about. But not from a space of like, man, you know, my wife is terrible because it took me years to find my wife, and I think that resonates with audiences, even people who aren't married, you know, because I'm not beating up on what that is because I've been single longer than I've been married, but it's just fun, man.
I love that. You got a video on Vimeo that I watched about. I think it's called 7 Jokes to Know.
Oh yeah,
it's just beautiful, and they're cut from, you know, different size venues and different genres and different rooms. You know, in line with what you're talking about earlier. I love that piece. It's beautiful, and I know you get to work with your wife as well.
Yeah. I think we're probably we may do a podcast together. Like we really like what Tom Segura and his wife are doing, but I'm so nervous that it's going to start arguments in our house. That's the only reason why I've been hesitant. Because like I will say stuff on the podcast, and I'm afraid to say to my wife as my wife. I'm like, hey. Listen.
Yeah, and as soon as you're like, and Clint's like, what in?
Yeah, she won't be talking to me to the next episode. So my wife has to talk to me.
She'll come out guns blazing next episode.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so I think she'll be phenomenal at that. Like she's just so immensely talented, and so we'll see. I'm still, you know, we're still figuring out because I have all the equipment. It's just like, when am I going to do it?
Well, we're gonna go full circle here because we started out this episode talking about your conversation with Joe Rogan, about him telling you to do a thing that he knows that you were wanting to do, and you're like, I don't know. And then I saw this knucklehead named Chase Jarvis just putting out some of it worked, some of it didn't, but I'm thinking about maybe. So I'm just telling you, there are people right now from Denmark. We got I did a very bad job last time, and we got Macedonia in the house, Malta, Cyprus, Denver, Liverpool, Tampa, Boston. We got people. The planet is basically sending a message to me, to you, to start doing all of this stuff. And I know Notebooks has come out. You got a trailer for that. I know that's soon. It's not on the internet yet, is it? It's private. Is that real?
No, I sent you guys a link. But it'll be on Owen Smith TV. After we hang here, I'm just going to put the trailer up live.
Okay.
And then April 16th is when we're gonna launch it. And we're still going back and forth with whether, and maybe you guys could tell me what you want, if you want all the episodes at once, or if we should do one a week. And that's only because me and my editor Matt Silfin, we're doing it ourselves. so
that's beautiful. And I want you asked before we got on. You said I want to know how you got that sponsorship. And
yes,
it was exactly. And I'll tell the short version of it because I realize that I'm keeping you longer than I promised I would. But there's like I put. You talked about Joe putting this on his back and just like walking. I started to do that, and people say, well, we like what you're doing, but how much would it cost to sponsor the show? And I would just throw out a crazy ass number, and they're like, oh yeah, geez, so sorry, we could sponsor a TV show for that. I'm like, this is better than TV. Totally get it. Have a great day. Appreciate it. And then someone else would come and like, well, we operate on the CPM model, which is per 1,000 views, how many dollars we, and I'm like, great, the show doesn't operate like that. You might operate like that, but my show doesn't operate like that. So have a good day. And for the first, did it 2 years with nothing. And we're getting 25,000 people showing up for these live shows and 50,000 people showing up for these live, this is on the internet in 2010.
Incredible.
And, would you compare that to 25 million, which you talked about performing in front of on live television, it ain't shit, but 25,000 people watching a thing or 50,000 people, it's not that there is like some gigantic number. It's not 25 million, but this is 50,000 people who really care.
Yes.
They're going to sit there and they're going to watch 90 minutes of this shit. And then they're going to go off being pitchfork card-carrying members of the show or of Owen or fill in the blank. And so I basically just started, just doubled down on doing the stuff until people realized that, a person doing the thing that they're put on this planet to do is really valuable in any industry because you can smell it. You can feel it if someone's doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. Yeah. And I think that's what Joe was telling you on the show is like this notebook's like, how it made him feel. And he's very accustomed to when something feels right? There are people, you said it earlier, you want to surround yourself with people who have done more than you've done or who are inspirational to you. If you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, spend some time with some good people. Like your wife is that people. Like to me, I think the world is telling you that, and you don't know what's going to come out of it, right? You have no idea. And for me, it wasn't the individual show or it wasn't the sponsorship. It was that it basically created everything that I have right now. And by have, I mean like the community, Creative Live, the fact that there's that platform where 20 million people learn how to take pictures and pursue the shit that they care about. It started out from like, I don't know, maybe we should put some shit on the internet. That'd be cool. Let's make a video. So I'm just telling you that there are people from, I just listed like 20 countries and 10 cities that want you to do this.
Yeah.
So
please. It's happening. It's definitely happening. Yeah. Good. That's great. I'm a Creative Live member too, man. I took some podcast classes.
Love it.
Sure did.
I didn't get to a lot of questions. Just know these questions are out there in the world. Torben wants to know what's the biggest obstacle. We had a lot of questions about agent. Is that coming back? Is it worth that? We had people asking questions about in the parroting the line, is it fake it till you make it? And of course, I'm a big fan of no, make it till you make it. That's this whole last.
Yeah, brand. I love that title. Yeah.
And there's a lot of grateful people out there for sharing and being vulnerable and telling stories about bombing. And man, anything I can ever do to stay close to you, I'm doing it. And I'm sorry we couldn't make this happen. I know for those folks at home who didn't know, like Owen was going to come to Seattle, we were going to do the whole thing and arrange a show, do all the stuff around it. But that is the next time we get together. It's going to be
love it, man. I can't wait, man. Thank you so much. Yes,
I'm over the moon. And let's just recap. TextOwen.com.
TextOwen.com. I saw some people doing this on their chats. I don't know if this will work. Can y'all see it?
Yes.
That was so shameless. TextOwen.com.
Man,
I wish it was attached to a charity. I'm not there yet, but I can't wait. I would donate. I would do something funny for any charity, and then Notebooks. It drops on the 16th. There we go. Notebooks, April 16th. on Owen Smith TV.
Owen Smith.
And you're gonna hear about it. You're gonna hear about it.
Yeah, man.
So yeah.
Make sure you have my digits as soon as we get off the show here, and
Fantastic.
that stuff drops. Or if there's anything I can do to promote me or Creative Live, we'll push it out. Congratulations on
Thank you.
Success. You're crazy talented, inspiring.
Thank you.
And amazing human. I'm grateful to know you, buddy.
Thank you. Same. Thank you, Nasa, for showing them the video. Appreciate it.
All right,
Yes,
y'all.
indeed.
Signing out for another episode
All right,
of
be
the
safe.
Live Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you again next time.
Yes.